We're talking about courage today and why it's important to you. Is bravery one of your character strengths? Hi, my name's Christine L. Conroy. Welcome to Happy Stuff and Fluff, a channel for women over 50 who are getting happy and growing younger. And we're talking about courage today, or why are we talking about courage today? Because it's essential to your happiness and well-being. So what does it mean? Well, according to the Cambridge Dictionary, courage is the ability to control your fear in any difficult situation. Notice we're saying control your fear and not get rid of it altogether. Fear is a necessary negative emotion. It alerts us to danger and to possibly to something that needs to be sorted out. So fear is important to us and we need it, but we need to be able to control it. And that ability, according to the Cambridge Dictionary, is what courage is all about. Courage is also one of the categories in our VIA character strengths, if you remember. If you don't, I'll leave a link here, or if you don't know what the character strengths are, I'll leave a link here for you to watch that. But included in the courage category is, amongst other things, bravery, perseverance and honesty. And all of these three things are necessary to us as women over 50 if we are wanting to make, if you are wanting to make positive changes in your life in order to become your best self and to live your best life. So those things are important, and those kind of changes will most definitely include you moving out of your comfort zone, and that takes courage. So that's the kind of courage we're talking about. You know, not the kind of courage, the inward possibly, but not fighting the saber-toothed tiger, let's put it that way. So there are many aspects to it, but for us here on Happy Stuff and Fluff, it's the feel the fear and do it anyway type of courage that we're talking about. And if you haven't read Susan Jeffers' book by the same name, I'll leave a link to that below. Now, I want to introduce you to someone, if you don't know her already, who can talk about courage with much more aplomb than I ever could. And it's this lady, Brene Brown. I'm pretty sure many of you will have heard of her. If you don't know who she is, she spent the last 20 years or so studying vulnerability and shame and courage and empathy. She's written 5 books. She's appeared on Oprah. But I think I'm correct in saying that her work became more widely known after she did her first TED Talk, which was called The Power of Vulnerability. And that TED Talk has now since reached 40 million views. So clearly, she's quite well known. And she talks about what she calls wholehearted living. And this is living from a place of worthiness. So it means developing the courage every day to wake up and say, I am enough. And then when you go to sleep at night, to feel that yes, although you may have been imperfect, you are still worthy. You are worthy of love and you are worthy of belonging. Remember, you are a child of the universe. That's what we're talking about. Now, this is just a quick video from me today because what I really came on to ask you to do is to watch this. As you can see here, she's done a Netflix special called Call to Courage. And in it, she talks about vulnerability. Incidentally, if you haven't watched the first one, you need to watch that too, because it's very funny. But in this one, she talks about vulnerability and shame, but also about leadership, about strength, and of course, courage. And she talks about the fact that choosing courage over comfort matters a great deal. And she says that you have to show up no matter what, and especially not be afraid of your critics. Because when you think about it, whenever we have something to do that we've maybe never done before, or doing something that is taking us out of our comfort zone, one of the reasons it takes us out of our comfort zone is because we're afraid of what people might say. We're frightened of what people might think, what others might say about us. We might be laughed at, we might be made a fool of, and that sticks with us. And that's what takes the courage, I think. Now, Brown says that although we are hardwired to care what other people think about us, we need to be intentional about who we listen to or about who we accept feedback from when we do step out of our comfort zone and do things. And she mentions some of the incredibly nasty comments that she received online after the first TED Talk that she did. This is really what made me, reminded me to talk to you about this, because watching some of the other YouTubers, a lot bigger than me, by the way, who get these kind of nasty comments and how difficult it must be for them to deal with, well, they need to listen to this, because it was after she received those comments, and she talks about it, and she talks about how it made her feel, but she also tells the story of how after that she came to this conclusion about it. And I'll leave the quotation here because I think it's wonderful and worth remembering. This is what she says. She says, if you are not in the arena getting your bleep kicked and rejected, then I'm not interested in your feedback about my work. And what she is referring to there is the fact that when you step out of your comfort zone, you are going to get critics. Not everybody is going to like you, and somebody's going to say something to you that you don't like. And given our negativity bias, if 1,000 people said wonderful things about you, but only 5 said something not quite so wonderful, it's the 5 you would listen to, isn't it? It's the 5 you would listen to. But if you can live like this, okay, because it usually is those people who are not in the arena, who are not putting themselves out there, who criticise you, and that's because they wish they could, but guess what? They don't have the courage to do it. So I love that quotation, and she now says that she only seeks feedback from people who love her but who are honest, and people who love her not in spite of her imperfections but because of it. And I think that's a really important thing to remember, and it really resonated with me. Something else I want to point out, but I do want you to watch it. It's on Neflix. Something else that resonated with me was when she was talking about the fact that as human beings we have a very strong sense or need for belonging. It's one of our basic needs. We need to feel a sense of belonging, but also it's about having the courage not to fit in. Now, this is quite a long quotation, but it's not a direct quotation, but this is what she says about fitting in. She says the opposite of belonging is fitting in. Because don't we say, I don't fit in anywhere, or I want to fit in? Well, that's the opposite of belonging. Because fitting in is assessing and acclimating. So thinking things like, here is what I should or shouldn't say. Here is what I should avoid talking about. Here's what I should or shouldn't look like. That's fitting in. Belonging, however, is never betraying yourself for other people. It doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are, and that takes courage. And this is why it's important to us, and this is why I really, really want you to watch that film. It resonated with me, that part, because when I had a particular job that I thoroughly enjoyed, I can't say too much about it, but I had a fabulous job. I loved the actual work, but I did not fit in with the culture in that particular place. And this idea of not changing yourself in order to fit in is a very difficult thing to do. In the end, I came to my senses and realised that it was wrong for me to try and fit in, because I actually didn't. And when I think about it, nor did I want to be. And so this idea of staying true to yourself, and we're going to talk about that when we talk about values down the line, but this idea of being true to yourself is very important to me. And unfortunately, it's what made me leave that particular role, which was such a shame, because I loved the actual work. But you have to work out what's important to you, don't you? So I love that. Now, the Netflix film that Brene Brown has done is called A Call to Courage, and it's peppered with delightful stories to demonstrate her points, but it's her own vulnerability and her incredible sense of humour, I think, that makes her so relatable. Please watch it, you'll love it, and I'm sure you'll find many things in there of value and meaning in it for yourself. So please watch that. It is on Netflix. It's free to watch. And there's something else I just want to mention before I go. I've had an idea that I'm going to go, or I'm thinking of doing a live streaming episode on either Facebook or YouTube. Is that something you would be interested in me doing and that you would attend? If it is, let me know in the comments box. I mean, I was actually thinking about saying to you, watch the film and then we'll have a live conversation about it on either Facebook or YouTube. What do you think about that? I was going to say if enough of you are interested, I'll do it, but I'll probably do it anyway. Just let me know, though, if you're interested in what you'd like me to talk about on a live where you can actually ask questions that I can respond to, or you could send questions in and I could respond to them live. And we'll see if we can't do that. But yeah, watch it. It's probably about an hour long, but she's very funny and very entertaining and very honest and vulnerable. And that takes courage. And that's what I want you to have, so that you can take your next step that's going to lead you to your best self and your best life. Okie doke, that's it for now. I'll see you next time. And remember until then that on the Happy Stuff and Fluff, we are getting happy and growing